got Pat Kramer here. We have got, I went to a wonderful screening. Was it last week?
Yes, yeah,
One
Monday, July 9th. Yeah.
Monday. Has anybody seen It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
Yeah.
The classic? Yes. You both put it on. Karen Sharp is Kat's mom, and her dad produced it.
And directed it, too.
And directed it.
And had to keep all the comics together. You know, you can imagine with all that talent, there was a lot of egos involved, but actually there wasn't. I mean, the film was made before my time, but according to my father, they all got along great, and it was just I am still in awe when I watch it that he even was able to put that together, no pun intended. And that's the reason I like that song is, it really demonstrates what everybody has to do as an artist. And there was actually another track of another song on there that I also really like that I think connects a lot to art, but I think it was too long, and I think we should just get to the scene soon.
Mm-hmm. So what are your earliest memories of performing?
Well, according to my parents and my mom, because I don't remember it, but she said I came out of the womb literally looking for my key light or lead light, whatever, that I always wanted to be a performer. And I come from a film family, no one was a song and dance person. My dad couldn't even carry a tune. But I've always wanted to...
But he made beautiful music on film.
There was a lot of great music in his movies. And music, I think, has always been the most defining thing in my life. But I've always wanted to be in show business. And I started, actually, as a ballerina at a very young age. I was always interested in the music of the ballet and ballet, strangely enough. And I took classes from a very young age, and I guess by the time I was 8 or 7 or something, very young, I think 8, I was supposedly demonstrating for the class. So that's the only time I've ever taught a class. This is my first time ever doing anything like this, except there might have been something where, I've coached people privately on things, but I've never done a workshop, and that was my only memory of it was in the ballet teaching kids.
Well, what's so amazing, growing up in a family who has been in the business, a lot of people come here to LA and wanting to be in it. How is it growing up, in a family who's been in the business?
Well, that's a good question because when I was little here, I always wanted to be an entertainer, as I said, and I started with ballet, but I really didn't want to end up in classical ballet. I wanted to be a song and dance person, singing, dancing, musicals, and then acting. But I didn't grow up in LA. When I was very little, my parents thought that my sister and I should have a normal upbringing, so they moved us to Seattle, Washington. They thought that would be away from the spotlight of Hollywood, but they didn't know that that's a very theater and music oriented. Well, Washington State and the city of Seattle, they're very culturally ahead, you know what I'm saying? So I got a lot of training, all my experience as a professional child actress in theater up there and then in music. And, when I came back to LA, I had my craft behind me, and I was playing roles like Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker, and I was actually the age 10 years old when I did it, and they were used to casting adults in kids' roles, and I kind of broke that barrier because I played Anne Frank in The Diary of Anne Frank. Anna Frank actually is the correct way to say it, and I was actually 13 when I did it. So I was the first child actress up there that was actually the age of the roles, which I think is an important point. Because they were so used to in repertory theater having adults play, they'd have a 25-year-old playing 13. It just wasn't believable to the audience.
Right. Now, how did your parents influence you?
Well, we'd be here all night, but my dad has, influenced me mainly because he was a giant in the industry. But the main thing is that he wasn't a filmmaker like the rest, and I mean this honestly. He was a family man. He was always home for dinner at 6, but he never did a subject that he didn't believe in, and he refused to do movies just for entertainment. They always had social issues. Right. And it wasn't that he wanted to be a message movie maker. It's just that he was only interested in telling stories and being involved with projects and initiating projects where there was something to say that we needed to deal with in society. So that really rubbed off on me, and that's why I started Kat Kramer's Films That Changed the World.
I love that.
And I'm not making any of the films yet in the series. I've only done 4. But it's to give filmmakers, right now it's mostly documentaries, a chance to have their movies showcased, and all the movies have social issues, and it's a different social issue each time I do it.
Right, right. I remember seeing, a friend of mine said that he went to the first one, which was Yentl, right?
Yes, yes, that's the only time I've ever had a classic film that's, it was the 25th anniversary, and that movie was very important to my father and me. We used to watch it, and, he really, well, Barbara was ahead of her time and is ahead of her time, as you know, big influence on me, and I think that I wanted to start the series with that film because it was celebrating its 25th anniversary, it was coming out on DVD, and it was a woman's, film. I mean, it had women's issues, and it was Women's History Month when I did it. And I didn't want just to pick, as I said in the reel there, but it was just a glimpse of it, I didn't want to focus on like women in film. I wanted to focus on social issues that were happening in the world. And that was only 2 years ago, but what was happening in the Congo, it still is, but it was very much prevalent then. There was a lot of new support groups like Raise Hope for Congo, and so I wanted them to be present at the screening. And so that really kicked off the whole series for me. And there was a call to action that day. I mean, we had speakers from the Congo, the Bergmans represented the film. It was just, that's when I realized what the series could be.
And then you did The Cove?
Yeah, that was my follow-up, was The
Wow.
Cove. And it won the Academy Award like a week after that.
Wow.
And I have to admit, I had Academy members there because they were afraid to see the film because there was a lot of, there's like 2 minutes of dolphin slaughter in there, but a lot of people, to this day still can't watch it. So they were afraid to see it. And it was such a very popular movie actually among kids, believe it or not. We had a 5-year-old activist, and he got up and said, if I can watch this movie and I understand what's happening, why are the adults here afraid to see it? So I have to say that when they watched it, they all went home and voted on. I wouldn't say the whole audience was Academy members, but a good portion.
Right.
And it did win the Oscar a week later. So
Okay.
I really realized then the power of getting people together in a salon situation and what the series could
Well,
be.
that's what I love about Kat Kramer's Films That Change the World,
Yes,
because
yeah.
you get these films out there, and you get them out there, and you bring a change to it, and they're important films.
There's
and-
another one coming up. It hasn't been announced yet, but officially, but there will be one before Christmas,
Oh, good.
before the holidays, for sure.
Is it open to the public? Or?
No. At this
Okay.
point, what I wanted to start was something like a salon where activists, the media, because the media is very important getting the word out there, and so
Right.
often the media is shut out from, which I don't understand. I mean, you have to have the media, or else how does anyone know? And then, of course, the celebrities like Lily and Cher and Tippi Hedren and Ed Begley and all the people that have been
Right.
involved from the beginning. It's celebrity driven because they get the word out, and it's not just that the celebrities get the word out. A lot of times they are more passionate about the issues than anything else. I mean, they really are driven by these issues. So their ambition in getting the word out there too works for the purpose. So I have to say that I've kept them at this point invitation only because I don't have the space at the
Right.
studio for and I have to charge admission, and I wanted to. It's all volunteer.
Well, it's
no
interesting.
one profits from it, so I didn't want to charge admission. I still don't.
Right. Before I even met you at what event was that? The California One Care event.
That's right. That's right.
I had seen you a year before on advertising about Yentl, so I said, God, this is amazing what you do. I brought something from home that I had to. You don't know that I brought this from home.
This is a surprise. Right?
Dear David Zimmerman, thank you for your sweet note, and good luck to you, Katharine Hepburn.
Oh, wow, and that's her stationery. Yes, that's exactly what my godmother, and she used to sign it Auntie Cat, because her nickname was Kate
Right.
to most people, but if you were family or you were, very, very close to her, it was Cat, and that's why I go by Cat, because we spell it the same way, but no one can spell it. And she sent my parents a christening dress saying she'll be forever telling them spell it with an A. So since no one ever spells Catherine right, I'm still Catherine with Screen Actors Guild,
Right.
but I try and be Cat as much as possible. It's just easier.
That's, royalty, Hollywood royalty here. So, and when I met you, and heard you on the Sheena Metal show, heard both of you. That was a gorgeous interview.
Well, thank you.
It was just,
She's great. She's a great interviewer.
Yes, she
and I
is.
think you're as good as whoever you're working
Yeah,
with.
Sheena's
really.
amazing, and I know she's
keeps
been
it
here
going,
too.
and she
so.
really asks very important questions, which keeps you on your toes, and
Yeah.
the hour goes so quickly.
Yeah.
But we were back to back. I was the first hour, and she was the second hour.
Both of them. It was so great
Very
to have.
good.
It's like mother and daughter in these 2 hours, and it's still online, so you could go to Sheena's. And for those who took Sheena's class, of course, you know Sheena. But it's fun. It's inviting. And it's warm, and you get to really know more about you and.
Well, I should say that there's 2 more films in the series, one about the elephants.
Yeah.
Elephants in Man, A Litany of Tragedy, which is even now more in the news than ever because of the Elephants of Asia exhibit. And that's why I timed it. It was perfect timing, but it was just unfortunate what's been happening. So that really we still need to solve that issue. And then the most recent one, the last one, was Teach Your Children Well, about bullying, homophobia, school violence, and one of the producers of that is here tonight, Mr. Paul Belcito.
Hey.
Who's come all the way from Long Beach to be here tonight, so it's great.
Yeah. Thank
And that film will be out there soon. It was Ahead of Bully. It's a short documentary, and Lily Tomlin narrates it, and she's actually been involved with 2 of the screenings, and she's a mentor to me, so I was very happy to be able to perform the song for her recently that was created for that, and hopefully for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one other question, then I'm going to open it up to everybody, and then after that we're going to do some scenes and monologues.
That's right, we have to get to the monologues and scenes.
So this is a question. How does someone outside the box break into the business?
Well, I've been trying to figure that out my whole life. Because everything I
But
do
aren't
is
you in the
outside the
box?
box. I just find that, that I have to be outside the box because I
Right.
don't think any other way. I just think today with the power of the internet and the technology that there is no excuse. I mean, you just really have to create your own reality and your own product
Right.
and get it out there. And I do think the internet is, in some ways I have reservations about that, but I think that anybody that wants to have a voice can put together something, some product, and get it out there. So I just think we're in a transition, and I think that it's very good right now for an artist to have their own voice.
Right.
But I also think it's, like tonight, it's great that there's many different age groups here and different types. I don't think that, that they're going to be casting as much. If someone's just an actor, I don't think they're going to be casting to type as much, hopefully.
Right.
Hopefully they'll break those taboos, because my father certainly did, and he used to put comics and, musical stars in dramatic roles, and
Well, like the men.
Exactly, and that was, well, we're getting to that in a minute. Scenes from the men will hopefully be performed tonight, or whatever you want to present. And that was the first time that Marlon Brando, who's a role model for all of us, I should think, that was his debut. But it was the first time, I think, that paraplegics were actually the real paraplegics. One of them was an actor, but the rest were not. They were actually cast in the film. So there were only 2 other actors in there, 3, I think. Well, 4 being Teresa Wright, but of the men, they were all paraplegics, and it was all, almost like a documentary in that sense.
When was that made?
It was made in 1949 and released in 1950.
Okay. Well, that
So
was ahead of
that's-
its time.
And then also ahead of its time is the monologue that will be done tonight, Crystal, the Terrible Tumbleweed, which Lily Tomlin personally gave to me for tonight. I don't think it's ever been done other than her. She did it in 1977, and it's very rare. You can't even see it on YouTube. This is a first. So I don't think these scenes have ever been done, or that, and certainly not together.
Right.
And that's before the Disabilities Act. That was before a lot of the things you see today. So I'm hoping when you do the scenes, you'll not update it and put yourself in those time frames and be able to relate to, what it was like in 1949 and 1977.
Right. Well, I mean, to see the way you get out there, it is amazing. You are out of the box, how you just, you push through. And I've learned myself, especially over the last, I don't know, several years, that you got to do your own stuff. You got to have it in your heart, and I think that's what makes it happen.
Well, like you do this, it's something that you've
Well,
generated
this is
on
family.
your own. Yeah, but again, you initiated something. You're not waiting for somebody to
Right.
call you and say, would you do this? You did it.
Yeah.
I just don't know how one would break through, like I said, unless you, go the Billy Bob Thornton route and do your own, like Sling Blade, or, Lily doing her own one-woman shows. I mean, I'm working on a one-person show now. I just think that depending on what you do, you have to generate your own. You can't wait for the phone to ring or someone to email you. That you can still audition, but I just think it's also, I don't know very many people that have actually gotten. I mean, they're lucky if they do, but most of the actors I know did not get their start going through the normal channels. It's very rare, and those that are lucky enough, I don't think that you can play by the rules.
Do we have any questions for Kath?
Yes?
Your documentaries that are out, is there like little clips on YouTube or?
Yes, well,
or
each one is by a different filmmaker. Well, Yentl's, you mean the documentaries. Yeah, The Cove, it's a famous film that won the Academy Award. You can definitely get that on DVD. The only one, Elephants and Man, A Litany of Tragedy, is not released. It was online for a while, but the filmmakers have pulled it off. There may be some, you can still see clips from it. But Teach Your Children Well, you can definitely see. In fact, you can talk to Paul Pelcito afterwards. He'll give you the rundown on it. That's online. There's a trailer, and you can actually get DVD copies, but we're still trying to keep that available only for when it's actually, I don't know if it will get a theatrical release, probably a television release, but we really want it to be in schools and churches and PTA groups.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I look
They
forward
are
to it.
available, so.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Brenda. I have a question.
Mhm.
On your movie about bullying, I think it's a great idea. Did I haven't seen it, but being a person who was bullied in my childhood, did you use any people like from way back when and see that things haven't changed much to how kids are bullied today? I mean, it's really...
Well, I was bullied also.
Right.
Actually, I didn't make the film. One of the producers is here, but
Uh-huh.
but I did present it, and I am involved with getting the film out there. And yes, it was a lot of interviews. Lily Tomlin narrates. Coco Peru is in it. There were students in it. It's really about kids and homophobia, and there's a lot of experts in it. And I do think the bullying today is because of cyberbullying. It is a lot worse, obviously, with the bully sides. It's a lot different than it was, but bullying's been going on since the beginning of time, but it is more prominent now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, Paul can tell you all about that. He was also bullied. So,
Yeah, it was horrible, and for me to be an adult to still think about it, and when I speak about it, it can bring you to tears.
it's a very important film, and
Yes.
we wanted to get out there to as many people as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, the one person that is featured in, as you said, Coco Peru,
Yes.
is one adult that tells of his experience when he was a child and how he created the character, his alter ego, which is Coco Peru, comedian, if you may, and icon,
an entertainer.
an entertainer and icon advocate for the gay community for 20.
Actually, Clinton Loop is Coco's real name, and he was talking about bullying for 20 years. Yeah, so that's why he was so happy to be part of the film. But you have to see it because there's so many people in it, and it's it was way ahead of its time in terms, and there's no other film like it. The rest of them are all, if you've seen Bully, that was just general bullying, and that's great because it's a long documentary in the style of The Cove. But this one is more educational, and it's more, interviews, and it's just more related to homophobia. It's very specific.
Thank you. We'll talk after.
Any other questions?
About the elephants,
Oh yeah.
are they still in captivity? Or
Yes, yeah. In fact, there's coming up August 3rd, I think, is the date, is National Elephants Awareness Day. And this film, Elephants and Man,
I
A
love
Litany of
elephants
Tragedy,
and
it's
man.
very violent. It's just like The Cove, and has a lot of unfortunately, animal cruelty. But,
Yeah.
I will find out if there's copies available. I just know that the filmmakers have kept it under wraps because there's a new movie about elephants coming out. So I think they wanted to wait till that came out.
Oh.
I think it's still on elephantsandman.com.
If you go, yes, if you go to
producer's
elephantsandman.com.
website.
Andrew?
I was wondering how the submission process worked and how the films got to you.
That's a good question because right now I'm set up for submissions. But that I've only done 4 so far. It seems like a lot more, but I don't do them as a film festival. It's like twice a year because I make them world premiere events. Until I decided to do The Cove, they came to me way before the movie was ever released. Charles Hambleton, who was the associate producer, thought it was something I should look at, and a friend of mine that knew the filmmakers, and it was already released, and I decided to have the DVD release, the West Coast DVD release, because it had just come out on DVD and nobody knew it, and it was like they needed the momentum for the Academy Awards. The Elephants one was just because Lily Tomlin is a friend of mine, and this was her issue, and I got very involved with that, and I saw a couple films about elephants, but they weren't the right film, and Melia Kaplan was part of the Free Billy, which was to free Billy from the LA Zoo, and it was her film that she produced. And Jacek Krapinski, the filmmaker, they just came to me and said, this is the movie you should screen. And then Lily had narrated Teach Your Children Well, and Paul and I connected, and almost as if by magic, I was looking for a film about bullying, and that was the right movie. I didn't even have to see anything else, just seeing the trailer, I knew this was the right film. Yeah. And the other one that's about to be announced is something that there's 4 other movies I was looking at that the filmmakers came to me, and this was through Peace Over Violence, and I'll say it's The Invisible War, that it's actually been released, very, very limited release, so I'll be having a big, hopefully high-profile media premiere the end of the year, because they are looking at it for awards consideration.
Okay.
We have time for 2 more questions. Marcia.
Your godmother was my heroine.
Oh, great. Yes, yeah, me too.
Could you share some memories about her?
Yeah, she was definitely larger than life. I used to hang out with her a lot, and she was a force of nature. I don't think there's anybody that I've ever met like her, and she was her image that the real her may not have been that, but the Katharine Hepburn that I knew, Auntie Kat, was the image that she had cultivated from the roles that she played. But she was always very curious, very athletic, and she liked to gossip, and she was always, wanting to know what I was doing or what my family was doing. And when I moved to Seattle, Washington, she actually was traveling with a play up there, and she visited us. And then I have to admit, when I came back to LA, I found out that Warren Beatty was looking for her to do the role in the remake of Love Affair that he and Annette starred in. So I think I was instrumental in getting her to do it because she really didn't want to, and I, set up a little thing with him where I said, send her the flowers today, and call her now, and a lot of people took credit, but they were already shooting the movie, and he asked me to come to the set, and would you please talk to your godmother about playing the role, so that was really cool when she came out here to do it. I got to spend time with her, and we did correspond up until the time that she passed. And then I was on Larry King, she passed away on a Sunday, and they called me that Monday morning, and I had to be there, at the studio to talk about her that afternoon. It really happened very quickly. But then they asked me to be the West Coast representative for the Katharine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center, which I still am, and I'm hoping to do fundraisers to keep the word out about it. It's in Connecticut, so, I'd have to do a lot out here, but I'm hoping to go there actually and perform. That would be a dream, because they have a theater there. It would be great.
Cindy.
Is there anything that you've been fortunate enough to be able to do a lot and have a lot of experiences, but is there anything that you haven't done yet that you'd like to do?
A lot. I feel like I'm just beginning. Well, I'll say on the clip for the Lily Tomlin, when I said I'd like to open for Lily Tomlin, I really do want to open for her. That was a little hint. I'd like to open for her in my new show that I'm doing. I would be honored if I could have the experience to open for her on one of her shows. So that's like a dream. And I also want to direct and produce more and, just have the roles that I want and get my Mick Jagger CD out there that I've been working on for a long time, and my web series.
Right.
So those are my own wishes, but I still don't feel I've done everything at all that I plan to do.
By the way, I heard a cut from your upcoming album, and it's wonderful.
Oh,
it's
thanks,
like I play it over and over again.
I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Did you have one?
I do have one question.
Tobias.
Most kids are not really exposed to disability, right? And
Right,
then
yeah.
when they are, it's there's a guy in the grocery store, and it's like, Mommy, what's that all about? And,
Right.
But in your case, obviously you were exposed to things that most kids weren't on a very personal level. And when you first were introduced to the men, did your parents sit you down and sort of explain it beforehand, or was it just, oh, I'm going through, my dad's stuff and come across it that way?
That's a great question, because I know you liked the film, and it,
Yeah.
I think they told me about it. I think I knew quite a bit about it. And then when I watched it, and then we were approached to do like an updated version, which is in the works now, and hopefully that'll happen for next year or the next couple of years.
Broadway,
yeah, it's
actually,
being
right now.
updated for hopefully to open in New York. And it could even be redone as a film too, or television. But I think for stage it would be great. It was just amazing watching Marlon, because everybody thinks that Streetcar Named Desire was his film debut. He did it on Broadway, but my dad had seen him in The Eagle Has Two Heads, and he chose him for the men based on a rehearsal of that. It wasn't even the play, and he was then becoming very popular. But he turned down every movie role that was offered, and my dad won the bid. And he was very anti-Hollywood. He wore jeans and a T-shirt. He was the first method actor that really. I mean, that was the beginnings of it. But he was the first one to actually live with the paraplegics, to actually be the role. He didn't just come to the set. He lived with them, and that's where he started. Where everybody from that generation, I think, was influenced not just by his style, but that he was actually living with the people as his character. In fact, they all thought, when they went out to dinner, they all thought he was really a paraplegic. They didn't know he was Marlon Brando. So, it was just interesting hearing stories about that. There's a lot of them, a lot of different stories, that are even in my father wrote a book. It's not really his autobiography, it was a memoir, but there's a book that my dad co-wrote with somebody else, and there's some stories in that book. So, you can all check it out.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is go into the scenes and the monologues, and we'll take like a 5-minute break.